Welcome to the ABC Podcast.
Always be cool.
The show where your hosts, DC and BK, showcase your local business and real estate pros going gangbusters in leadership, community involvement, and just being cool.
Here are your hosts, serial entrepreneurs, mortgage experts at Summit Lending, and partners in crime, Darren Copeland and Bobby Kerr.
All right, everybody, it's the Always Be Cool podcast, hanging out with your hosts, Bobby Kerr, Darren Copeland.
What's up, everyone?
We are very privileged today to be with the Superintendent of Schools in Springfield, Missouri, Dr. Lathan. Go ahead and take it away, DC.
All right, man, here we go. Superintendent of Missouri's largest school district, located there in Springfield, Missouri. They have more than 24,000 students. They have more than 50 schools and 3,500 employees, which is just amazing. She first learned about serving from her church and Girl Scouts back in the day. She has degrees from Southern Illinois, North Carolina A&T, and plus she has so many awards listed in her bio that we can go get into that later on. Just an outstanding, great person. Dr. Lathan, welcome to the show. How are you?
Hello. Thank you all for having me today.
Yeah, our pleasure. Our pleasure. Well, Darren and I were talking before the show. Well, first of all, on the show, we have a lot of big-time corporate CEOs. We have a lot of professional athletes. And so this is, I think, you're our first guest to ever be on the show who's been an educational leader. And so we've had a lot of former teachers who have done other things in other realms, athletes, et cetera. But to have someone right now who's fully immersed in such a large school district and has such an important role. This is a really, really cool thing for us. So number one, thank you for joining us because I'm a former public school teacher.
Yep.
Darren's mom taught for 30 plus years. Liz, Darren's wife, taught for almost 15 years. My sister is a doctor of education. So we are very, very passionate about making sure that the next generation is getting the education that they need. So that takes us right into the first bullet point that we wanted to talk about, Dr. Lathan, is the way that you view your role. I thought this was really, really interesting. You said that you view your role as chief advocate for Springfield Public Schools and, of course, all of its stakeholders, students, and employees. So maybe just start there and talk a little bit about that approach, being a chief advocate for all of the stakeholders.
Well, number one, it's an honor to be able to serve and to lead our district. And I consider myself a chief advocate. And I'll give you an example of that. This past Saturday, we hosted our Back to School with Dash event at the Expo Center, where we had community partners, members of Team SPS, just our parents and our students. We provided them with backpacks, hygiene products, groceries, immunizations. We hosted a job fair. They had an opportunity to sign up for transportation, participate in a fun zone, and we gave away prizes. But we did everything we needed to prepare them for the first day of school, which, by the way, is August the 22nd.
Crazy.
And so when I say advocate, I'm advocating not only for students' well-being overall as it relates to academics, but also their social needs, their enrichment needs, their extracurricular needs, anything a child needs to be successful in school that will help them later in life. That is my job and that is my role.
That's amazing. So how many people just approximately came out for that event? Because that sounds like you had the whole gamut to get everyone ramped up and ready to go for that first day of school.
We had about 5,000 participants this year.
Wow.
And like I said, it was an outstanding event. Members of our community just showed up and helped provide the resources that our families needed.
What's so special about that is I would imagine that 5,000 people come out, right? Probably even a lot of community members that don't necessarily have children within the school district. And it really is a collaborative effort within a school district to make it run so well. I have a question for you, knowing that probably a lot of those people, like I said, were not necessarily parents of current students, but what's in your guesstimation or your professional opinion, what's the correlation between like parent engagement, student outcomes in your district, doing great programs like this back to school event where you're providing resources to kids that are necessary in order to set them up for success? So what's that correlation really like in 2023?
I mean, that correlation, if you have parents engaged in their child's education, you're going to see the results of that academically, how it plays out in school. not only as it relates to academic achievement, how a child behaves in school, understanding that connection of there's accountability at home as well as accountability at school. And then also let's talk about the people though that do not have children in our in our school district. We still need to be connected to them. I'm excited that we have a new strategic plan that our school board approved this past December, where one of the priorities is around a collaborative culture, engaging everyone in the greater Springfield community. That includes people that do not have children in our school district. So it's important that we not only make that connection with students and their families, but also every community member. And that's one of my goals for the upcoming school year. I have various goals that the school board evaluates me around, but then I also have my own personal professional goals. And number one, it is to be more involved with people that do not have children in the community, especially senior citizens. Because at the end of the day, when we put a measure on the ballot, we're asking all citizens in the community to support us. And so I want to make sure people know that I'm accessible, not only at election time, but times beyond when we need someone to say yes on the ballot.
Well, I think that's such a great point, Dr. Lathan, because I remember growing up and I remember my grandparents. And you know how older people, well, we all complain about taxes, right? But I remember specifically my grandparents saying, we no longer have kids in school and, we have these taxes. So I think that's a brilliant idea to still keep those folks engaged and make them feel like it's a part of it, because, you have so many people that go through the different seasons of life that maybe they had some kids, grandkids go through the schools and then they're out and then they don't have that connection anymore to the school district, right?
Exactly.
Yeah,
and it's important because our future leaders in the community, we're educating them right now, and so I want our community members to know: here's a person that's going to take care of you at the doctor's office. Here's the person that's going to wait on you at a restaurant. That's going to build you a new home. And so there are all types of people that we need to connect with in our community, but they need to know what we're doing here in Springfield Public Schools.
I think it's really great that you're trying. That's one of your personal goals. You said that you wanted to be, had the community more involved, or you more involved with the community. And I always found it interesting. So when I taught public school, I taught for 5 years at middle school, and I came from the business world prior to, so being an entrepreneur prior to being a public school teacher. Went back, got my master's to teach, and so I had this different lens through which I viewed education. And so I always viewed a superintendent like a CEO of the district, and you have the school board, who is the chairman of their chairwomen, right, of the board. Then you have your teachers; they're the managers, the leaders of the company, and you have the students that I always viewed as the consumer. They're the ones that are taking in what is essentially being produced for the community and the stakeholders. But I love that word, stakeholders, because it is truly encompassing not only the kids in the school, the teachers, the administrators, but you're talking about those people that are part of your personal goals to actually get them involved within the community and the school district, because it is a cohesive unit. And if everyone's not acting in accordance with one another, then sometimes we don't know who's wagging who, and it can get a little more confusing. So I must applaud you for making that one of your personal goals.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Do you, I'm sorry, Darren.
No, go ahead.
Do you, we love this because as business people, right, we have very specific questions, but it translates a lot. So we're big on goals ourselves. And so all of our team members, we do goals and goal strategies, strategy sessions, and our personal goals. So when you mention that, do you, as a educational leader, have a mentor or a coach or maybe somebody from your past that you reflect upon and use as a sounding board almost?
I do. I have a number of former superintendents that that continue to coach me. I actually have a mentor that is a retired Missouri superintendent. Nice. That led a district similar to Springfield Public Schools. And so that we're moving into our second year actually, I had a former superintendent my first year here in Missouri. I'm now starting my third year. And so she's actually going to continue to be my executive coach for a second year. And it's great to be able to bounce ideas off of her. And like I said, she gets it because she has lived it and she understands. But it's important to have mentors and coaches in our lives. And people should know that on any job that you have, you should have that type of relationship.
Man, you're speaking there's right to our heart, Dr. Lathan, because we always say, hey, whether it's sports or business or education, everyone needs a mentor. right? Everyone needs a coach. I mean, we always joke around, being from Kansas City, we're huge Chiefs fans. Even Patrick Mahomes has a quarterback's coach, right? You always need someone that might see some things that might be in your blind spot that you didn't really think of or anything like that. So that's really cool that you have that. And also, I think what was important that I was going to get into is, with someone in your role, which is a phenomenal role. Also, I think sometimes forget that at the end of the day, you're a human, right? You just didn't wake up overnight and you're a superintendent. No one sees, we call it the iceberg, the success is the tip of the iceberg out of the water. And then below, no one sees all the hard work and, the multiple degrees you have and all those hours of studying that you did. So let's take a step back. As you were growing up, was there a certain point in your life, Dr. Lathan, that you were like, hey, you know what? I want to get into education. I eventually want to get to that superintendent spot because I know, I love how you talked about, you got some of your background from the church and the Girl Scouts, and I'm sure you slated as selling some Girl Scout cookies back in the day. But was there a certain point growing up that you were like, you know what, this is exactly what I want to do?
I always knew I wanted to be a teacher. And then in my high school memory book, I wrote that it says, where do you see yourself in 10 years? I wanted to become a principal. Mm-hmm. I really initially had no desires to become a school superintendent. I'll be very honest with you. I experienced success as a superintendent. As a principal, mm-hmm. And my superintendent, when he was leaving our district to go to another school district, he says, I truly see you as a future superintendent. I want you to consider taking this central office position, and I want to help you get prepared to become a superintendent. So it was a mentor that saw, hey, you can go beyond being a building level principal. I do see that you have that skill set. And so that's how it morphed into me becoming a superintendent. But I always wanted to be a teacher and a principal. And I still consider myself a teacher. In everything I do, I try to remember what it felt like to be in the classroom, also what it felt like to be a building principal when we make decisions here at the central office. And sometimes we forget and we have to be reminded. And that's another reason I love about building relationships. I want my staff members to know that they can approach me, they can share the things that are working in our district, but they also can provide me feedback of things that we need to improve on.
That's one thing that is really good about education is kind of this stair-step approach that in order to really be an assistant principal, I don't know that I've ever met an assistant principal that wasn't a classroom teacher or a principal who wasn't an assistant principal or a super who wasn't, a building administrator. And so I love that education does have that stair-step approach. And I'll say it seems, at least to me from the outside and the inside perspective, that maybe this public school superintendent is one of the most rapidly changing roles within education. So in your opinion, kind of what is that primary role of a superintendent, especially of a large school district, of one of the largest in the entire country?
It's back to what you said earlier. It is to function as a CEO. I'm the CEO of our educational school district, or educational company, if you want to call it. Springfield Public Schools is our company. The difference is we work with children, young adults every day. And so our product and outcome, like you said, it equates to student achievement. How well are our students performing at the end of a school year when they complete that school year? So when they enter in August and then when they leave us in May, have we been able to grow that child academically? Have we provided them with the skill sets that they need? So part of my responsibility is working in collaboration with my team to ensure that we have the right, we manage the finances that the public has entrusted us with, that we select the right curriculum and the resources that our principals and our teachers need, and then that we also have a well-rounded educational experience for them that includes sports, it includes extracurricular opportunities, sometimes it includes tutorial supports, it includes field trips. So ensuring that we have the necessary, like I said, finances, but also partners that can help us where we have maybe some gaps, and we need maybe speakers, or we need internship opportunities for our students. So it's connecting our community partners with the resources in our district and connecting our district personnel with those resources.
You mentioned something there about data. I believe you said something, or I wrote down data, and maybe it was about just being. Here's my question. How important is it for you to have accessible and accurate data when you are making major decisions about the district. We're talking about student improvement, right? And so a lot of times that equates to test scores. That's why I wrote that down. So maybe talk about, since that is a big piece of one of your 3 goals this year, and obviously every year, just talk about how much data lives and breathes every single day within a school leader.
Thank you. I mean, it's extremely important. One of the we're starting our 2nd year. So last year I implemented a universal screener. A universal screener, we administer that 3 times a year. It's called a beginning of the year assessment, middle of the year assessment, and the end of the year assessment. And so think about it like this from an athletics. And since it sounds like you all interview a lot of athletes, so when the Chiefs show up for whatever that sports camp is, as you can tell, I'm not an athletic person, but they have the open camps going on right now. So preseason, getting ready for preseason. So in the preseason, they're taking everyone's weight, they're conditioning, they're doing those things. So beginning of the year is our preseason. When children enter the school, we give them an assessment. Then middle of the year, so we're trying to get ready. We're not ready for the Super Bowl yet. We're not ready for the regional playoffs or whatever you call it. So in November and December, we give them a middle of year assessment. So when they arrived in August to November/December, did we grow them? Did they meet the academic goal that we established for that particular child? And then we go back and administer next April and May, we administer the assessment again. If they've been able to grow throughout the course of that school year and they've grown based on the goals that we set for them, then we call that a Super Bowl win, that we were able. But if we did not win the Super Bowl, let's say we did not grow a child that school year, then we have to make some necessary adjustments. And we actually do that throughout the course of the school year with the assessment. And so the teacher kind of has a plan of action of, okay, these particular students need to work on this. Bobby needs this. Darren needs this. And then they work on that plan throughout the school year to address it. If by chance at the end of the school year, students still need additional supports, we recommend that they participate in our Explore program. We also recommend that they participate in tutorials. So we use data ongoing throughout the course of a school year to make our instructional decisions. That's also what drives our budget, is how well are our students doing academically? What do we need as it relates to, when we ask the board to approve our budget every June for the upcoming year, is how much money do we need to put in XYZ? How many additional supports, whether it's personnel supports, it's curriculum materials. One of the things we used some of our ESSER federal dollars with was a before and after school care to ensure not only that our staff members, if that needed care for their own children, but our students who qualify for free and reduced lunch, that their parents had an opportunity and a place for them to be before or after school. So that's how we make those decisions. You've probably heard a lot about, as it relates to COVID, discipline and students experiencing maybe even some mental health issues. We use some additional dollars for that. So we have a partnership that supports behavior technicians. We have a partnership with another or a partner that supports social workers in our schools. So we're constantly looking at data, whether it's attendance data. We have a big campaign coming up for the upcoming school year around attendance, making sure that students are in school every day. We look at discipline data. We look at, like I said, our achievement data. And then we design our budget based on what the data is showing us.
Very cool. I'm just sitting here, Dr. Lathan. We keep talking about, treating this like a business, being the CEO of Springfield Schools. And as far as like just decision making, like you have all these schools, you have all these employees, like how does that decision making, do you have like a system or a flow? Because, I know how it is in some of our businesses, and, we have, a much smaller number of employees. I can't imagine having 3,500 employees because, that number, not everyone's seeing eye to eye all the time, right?
Right. That's true. One of the things I also utilize is Gather with Grenita. So that's a tool, and it's virtual, where any staff member, their times listed throughout the day, various times, of course, across the school year, that they can jump on a Zoom call, and I start with an update on the district, and then there's no agenda. They can ask me questions. They can share with me what's working. They can put things on my radar, and they give me ideas and things to think about. We also use another platform called Thought Exchange, and it is a survey tool that we push out to not only our staff members, we send it out to parents, community members, and high school students at various times to get their feedback. And so we try to utilize that feedback to then inform the decisions. Sometimes we can hit it and we can do exactly what people are asking us to do or providing us feedback. And then other times I have to make a decision, say, no, this is not in the best interest of our district right now, or it will not fit in our plan, and we have to do something else. But I always like to give feedback back why we didn't make a change. And I'll give you one example. I'm not sure how much time we have, but I want to give you one example.
No, you're good.
Last school year, we held what we call SPS University. SPS University is basically a workshop session for parents and community members where they can come into the district, they receive an overview from me, and then they're able to attend various classes. So last year, and it's worked in previous districts I've been in, we held an SPS University on the same night in September across the entire district. So all 52 of our campuses were open that night.
Wow.
Well, it was a nightmare. It was a nightmare because if I'm a parent that has multiple children, I could only go possibly to one, and I might have made the second school because we did do some staggered times. And so the feedback was overwhelming from parents and staff members. Don't do it again. Don't do it again. Please don't do that.
Yeah.
So this year, SPS University will be held between August 21st and September 14th. So schools can choose when they're going to host the event. They'll publicize that to their families. Now, what we're going to do, we also do district-wide events where it is still one night at one location. That will be in November, November 16th for the fall, and then in March for the spring. But that was one way that we utilized feedback to make a decision, because at the end of the first week of school, I always send out a survey. What went well this week? Give us some suggestions for improvement. And then we actually try to respond back. And then I'll record a video saying, thank you for your feedback. Here are the things I'm able to address. Here are the things that we're going to have to wait a little bit longer on. Another one was they do not like starting school on a Monday. I don't know what it is about Springfield, Missouri or Missouri.
Right.
A lot of our districts don't start on Monday. And they were like, can you please not start school on Monday? So we're starting on a Tuesday this year. So it's things like that, but trying to listen and make decisions. Sometimes I've also offered mental health days for our staff members. When I'm out visiting campuses, they've said, how overwhelmed they are, tired. So my first year, we did it in October. This past year, we did it in May. At the end of the school year, we had a mental health day. So those are just different things based on feedback that I received from employees and staff members, parents.
I love that idea, especially the mental health day. But, you're right. People are not so excited about Mondays all the time anyway. So I could see that's kind of
the year
that's like
Monday,
a double whammy, right?
Yeah.
It is. That's all I've ever done is start school on a Monday, but they were like, no. I'm like, okay, let's fix it.
Right. I think around here, it's usually a Tuesday or a Wednesday. In the years that I taught, it was always kind of midweek, which was nice because you could have kind of your in-service almost and like get your classroom ready. And so a teacher doesn't feel like they're getting smacked in the mouth from day one on a Monday,
Right.
So a lot of the things you mentioned there, Dr. Lathan, about is really just about transparency. I mean, you're creating these opportunities to be transparent with your stakeholders, to have conversations, open up the window to have opportunity, to say, hey, I visited this district, or I hear what's going on here, or I've seen this go on. So kudos to you for making that happen. You've also mentioned a couple of times now, attendance. You've said the words attendance 3 or 4 times.
Yes.
And this one is always really interesting to me as a former educator. I don't think the general population understands how closely related attendance is to the amount of resources that a school district is able to obtain from a state. So maybe just spend a couple of minutes to educate the people on how important and crucial it is to make sure that students' butts are in seats.
You're right. Funding is tied to students' attendance, not enrollment in our district. So we are very pleased and proud to be the largest school district in the state. But at the end of the day, it's about the students that are attending school and being in school on a daily basis. But, aside from the financial benefits from the state perspective that we receive, but it's important that children are in school so that they can receive a quality education. And when students are absent, we have to find a way to catch them up, and then they're behind their peers. So we really want to push students being in school on time every day. And we're saying attendance equals their future.
I like that.
So just out of curiosity, because that seems like a massive underdoing, is that just an electronic process in terms of taking roll and turning that into the state? I mean, how does that on the back end, how does that look to make sure that you're getting the right data to the state to make sure you guys are getting the funds that you're supposed to get?
You're right. Everything is reported electronically. So teachers input attendance at the
Every
school
hour.
level. The office staff make sure that everything is accurate. And then we have to upload information periodically to the state. So it's important that the person that's entering that information, making sure they enter that correctly. If a student comes in late, making sure that we've corrected it, change absence to tardy. But it is extremely important that we are accurately recording our attendance.
Very cool.
Well, you mentioned obviously the most important piece is to ensure that students are getting the quality education so that they're not falling behind or that they're keeping up with their peers. So preparing students in this quote unquote digital age, right? We've been hearing the quote unquote digital age for 25 years now, and it's kind of been an evergreen term of sorts. So in 2023, what exactly does the digital age and preparing students for the digital age look like in today's classroom or today's super district like Springfield, Missouri?
Well, number one, we have a class and a course that we assign to students that actually, if you think about digital citizenship, so they have an opportunity. We actually hired this year through our budgeting process 2 instructional technologists that will work with classroom teachers on the proper usage and how to effectively utilize technology in the classroom, but making sure that there's a balance so that we're not overutilizing, students are not having extended screen time. So there is a delicate balance. And like I said, we have 2 employees devoted to that for the upcoming school year. Because we want to ensure that students know how to use technology, but they also know how to use it safely,
Yes.
but we don't want to overuse. And think about it from the standpoint when we were all in school, that busy work or worksheets. It is now, sometimes it's turned into a device, and we don't want busy work to just be through through a device.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah. I mean, we've all been part of it, and a lot of teachers have been part of lots of different districts, but you have these big, massive technology rollouts that, it's almost like they assume it's an easy button. And because 10 years ago, it was like, oh, let's get iPads in every classroom or let's get Chromebooks in every classroom. But just because you have the tool, that doesn't necessarily mean that the person is equipped to utilize the tool. And so I find that that's really, really great that you and the district are saying, okay, technology is just one facet of this. We've got to make sure that they're being effective and responsible digital citizens.
Like they can actually use it when they roll out.
Right.
So Dr. Lathan, is there any goals that you have that you can share with people to listen on this program over the next 3 or 5 years? Is there 1 or 2 goals that you're really, championing and trying to work towards over the next few years?
Improving academic outcomes for every student that we serve. So all of our students ensuring, like I said, that they're growing academically each year, but those students that are behind grade levels, that we're able to catch them up. But at the end of the day, we're here and it all falls and centers around student achievement. So that's the ultimate goal, just making sure that we have the right resources in place. We have effective teachers and principals. And then that as a superintendent and along with my team, we tear down those barriers that are preventing them from successfully meeting the needs of our students.
That's good. Darren, actually, this is a perfect segue into that. So with Darren's question about long-term goals and what it's really going to take to make sure that Springfield stays ahead of the curve, I always found it interesting as an educator of how far down the road school leaders were actually looking at improvement plans. And I mean, we're talking 5-10 years sometimes down the road. And I think a lot of stakeholders have this, micro lens where it's looking at this school year, right? And even a lot of educators who aren't necessarily part of improvement groups or committees, but maybe talk a little bit about school improvement plans and the process that goes in to work on those or change those, creating visions and mission statements and core values for school districts. I mean, a lot of these things, as we always say, these are synonymous across any industry. And so that's what I loved about education in particular, is because you could take a lot of business things and put it into a school. But talk a little bit about those things and really how it is not some quick fix. And there's a lot of things going on behind the scenes.
Thank you for asking me that question. Now, we have a 5-year strategic plan. Like I said, our board approved it in December of 2022, and that we're working off of that 5-year strategic plan. And so in that 5-year strategic plan, we have objectives that we want to meet or master over the next 5 years. And centered around that, of course, is our budget to ensure that financially we can take care of all the needs that we have addressed in that particular, in the strategic plan. And so we are planning 5 years out. And so we kind of, you think about it, then we backwards plan from the end of the 5 years of here are the things we want to work on in year one, in year two, year three, year four, and year five. And we're continuously revising that. So some things that maybe we're saying, oh, this is year four, but based on data, we might move that up to year two or year three. But we're doing that over a 5 year period. And that's not only myself, but other school districts across the country. They do the same things. Most people are doing 3 to 5 years. We voted on a 5 year plan. Some of the goals will get accomplished in the first year. And eventually we might need to add to those particular objectives that we've listed.
Well, I love the fact, Dr. Lathan, that you guys have goals, because we're really big on that in the businesses that we have, meeting with individuals and what their plans are. But like looking 3 or 5 years out is such a phenomenal idea, because as you know, things you have to adjust over time, right? You might have to make things a little bit sooner. You might have to push some things out a little bit, but just having a plan and then adjusting it is phenomenal, because, I remember growing up and I could always tell when my mom that taught 5th grade, I always knew if she had a good principal that year or a bad principal by how she was when she got home. Right?
It's true.
Because you heard about it all the time. But, it seems like not always, even in business and schools, I don't know if everyone really has an exact plan, but it really seems like you guys have it dialed in down in Springfield, which is really cool to see.
We do. Our board set the vision for that 5 year strategic plan, and now I call it just working the plan.
Yep,
it's good. Stick to the plan. That's why you spend so much time writing it, so that you can stick to it.
Right. And we know you're a super busy lady, but just a real quick sports question for you. So, growing up, Bobby went to Blue Springs. I went to Truman High School up here, Blue Springs South. Sorry. Do you ever get a chance to attend any of the sporting activities down there in Springfield?
The Springfield Cardinals, I was able last year. No, 2 years ago. It's been 2 years now. I guess I'm starting my third year that I was able to attend one of those events. And then, of course, football game at MSU and basketball at MSU. So that's been the nature of, I think, my sporting opportunities.
Well, you have just a few things on your plate.
Yeah, a few things. So, Dr. Lathan, obviously, every single year, the face of education is constantly changing. We've talked about technology. We've talked about just funding. So what's one recent trend in your studies and what you've come across maybe in other districts, or maybe it's something that Springfield's leading the charge with that's going to have a major influence on school districts to come in the years ahead?
Ooh. One of the things that was most impressive to me about Springfield Public Schools is the support that we have on our campuses. For example, all of our schools having a school counselor, all of our schools having a school librarian or at least a staff member to support, and our students having access to our libraries and being able to work on their reading skills beyond the classroom. And those additional supports, our various partnerships with various partners for, like I said, before school and after school care. A couple of our campuses, actually, the Boys and Girls Club is actually housed in our facilities. So that's powerful in the sense of being able to do that. What you'll continue to see from Springfield Public Schools is that we will continue to partner with some great organizations that will meet the needs of our students. And as you think about the change, I wouldn't say the changing of education is continue to focus on what we need to do to make sure that every child is successful. I want to continue to put the message out there that receiving a public school education is still a great way to become a great citizen in this country and to be able to live the dream that a particular child or parent has for themselves. So I want to just spread that message that public school is still where it is, or where it's at, I guess it's
right.
slang term.
I like it. Right. We got a couple public school grads sitting here before you today, so
yes,
we turned out okay.
We did all right,
according to some.
We did all right.
That's great.
Well, and also we want to be mindful of your time and just thank you so much for hanging with us. Is there anything in particular that you would like to share that maybe we haven't covered so far? Anything exciting?
I just want to share, and like I said, I want to make sure your listeners know that Springfield Public Schools and the greater Springfield community, it's a great place to work and a great place to live. Because like I said, you wouldn't believe the collaborative culture that truly exist in Springfield, Missouri. And so I need people to come down. And so you all come down from Kansas City and see it for yourself. And if anyone's looking for a job, feel free to check out our website, www.sps.org. Thank you for having me today.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Dr. Lathan. Yep, we really appreciate it. This has been the Always Be Cool podcast, hanging out with your hosts, Bobby Kerr, Darren Copeland, and Dr. Grenita Lathan, down in Springfield, Missouri. Make sure to check out the school district online at sps.org. You can check out or email the team at communications@spsmail.org or find them on Facebook and LinkedIn at official SPS. Dr. Lathan, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you.
Thank you.
All right.
If you are hearing this message, you've listened to the entire episode. And for that, Darren and Bobby thank you from the bottom of their hearts.
They hope you enjoyed this new episode. And if you did, please leave them a review on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or wherever else you're listening. Please share this episode with others who may be interested in our community.
Also, feel free to let DC and BK know which business or community leaders you'd like to see covered in future episodes. Get in touch in the comments or on social media. See you next time for a new episode. And remember, always be cool.
This podcast is powered by Summit Lending, NMLS number 1850081, Equal Housing Lender.